Great. Okay, yes. So I'm Kirsta. This is Nat, and this is Kyle, and we are from the University of Toronto Scarborough, the Digital Scholarship Unit. So there are some other names here. Irfan, if you want to raise your hand. So I put their names on. They're not speaking, but the other people have been very instrumental in the work we're presenting today. And Lara, who is not here, she is at home finishing up her co-op term with the University of Toronto Scarborough's Library Digital Scholarship Unit, but she did a lot of the work that we're going to show here today. So we wanted to give her credit. So we're these Muppets. And where do these Muppets come from? Fraggles, they're Fraggles. Oh my gosh. Yeah, they're Fraggles. Where do these Fraggles come from? So we are from the eastmost suburban campus of the University of Toronto, which is a very large Canadian research institution. And it is a mid-sized, primarily undergraduate institution in its own right. So we have the library there, but there are 40 libraries at the University of Toronto. In our library, we have a digital scholarship unit, and we are basically the digital scholarship unit, although ScholComm is with us and data, and there's 4 librarians when we're at full strength. And then we have a parade of co-op students and other student staff, and we have a lot of faculty partners. And with those people, we set up a lot of digital scholarship, digital humanities projects, as well as a lot of digital special collections. So we needed a flexible local solution for a bunch of diverse use cases. So we can't list out everything that we are going to do because we have faculty coming to us and inventing new things for us to do all the time. So we needed something that was very configurable. We have a long history with Islandora, and last August at the Islandora online meeting, we presented some prototyping work for something that we called Islandora Lite. Now, can I trouble you, Isabella, to share the slides in the chat? Our slides. So we are not going to the live sites, but we've put links into our beta sites, and this is mostly just for time because we had a lot that we want to talk about. But we want you to be able to go and click on the links as you go. These are all beta things. This is also, we are standing on the shoulder of all of your work. So we have heavily borrowed and benefited and worked and collaborated with people in the Islandora community to do this work. So you can see our presentation from last year at that link. So what is Islandora Lite? Well, at the time, I think it was a little bit more controversial, but we're not integrating directly with Fedora. It's not something that we needed right off the bat, so there's no Fedora. We're also doing something alternative with microservices, and Kyla's actually presenting on that this afternoon with Alan, if you want to hear more of the technical details on that. And then the other thing that we did was we really wanted to keep Drupal's original node media relationship, which is not something that Islandora was doing. Although I do notice that it is in the scoping document for possible future architecture. So we're hoping that Islandora Lite is a little closer to standard Islandora in the years to come. I'll also say that most of this work is now in pull requests or publicly available. So we also have links to the repositories wherever possible, and pull requests and review of our existing pull requests is warmly welcomed. So I'm going to start off with some of the things that we've been doing in display that we think will be useful to other people. Our collection item view. So you'll notice it's modeled after the collection item view that Born Digital designed. Thank you, Born Digital. We've got the share buttons here that are coming from, I can't go over and point to them, but hopefully you see them at the top, the Facebook link and so on. This is coming from the Better Social Media Buttons module. And then we just have a little patch that allows us to share from our permalink. It's the standard OpenSeaDragon viewer. Our permalink is coming from an ARC ID, so we have an ARCs service that we run independently from Islandora, and that again is publicly available, and there is an article in Code4Lib forthcoming on it if you're interested. We have our IIIF manifest button, so a user can download the IIIF manifest. We have the title metadata in there and plans to add additional metadata. We have the nice download button. And then one thing that we thought people would be interested in is this cite this object panel that's here. Is citation select. That's a module that we've developed based on work in Drupal, and is very configurable, any CSL style, translatable. You can add this block to any object, and you can, from any field and any content type that you have in your installation, you can figure out how you want that citation to look and configure it to work. There's a view-driven metadata panel down here. So the reason why we did this, there were 2 reasons why we wanted to drive our metadata panel from a view. One is so that we could pick different fields for the different sites because everyone needs a slightly different metadata view. And then the other reason was the links here, if you can see to genre and resource type, when you click on those links by default, you go to the taxonomy driven view, but we wanted the search powered view. So we can do a lot. If we're doing views, we can do a lot of rewrites and things like that. It gives us a lot of flexibility, not just for the use cases that we have now, but for the use cases that we anticipate will happen as our imaginative faculty come forward. The other thing that we have here is on the bottom, you'll notice a little display mods record and display DC record. So we're using the OAI PMH module, and who was it that developed that at first?
Kent State's.
Kent State's, yeah, so Kent State's OAI PMH work, which is also view driven. So if you can figure out a view and if you can write a little twig, you can display your metadata in any format you want. So for us, this is important because we can have, this is our metadata in Drupal, we can have this mods expression, we can have this DC expression. This was something that we really liked in Islandora 7 because we have to talk to a lot of different systems. So we want to be able to go into the catalog, we want to be able to make something that the archivists will like, we want to make something that can work for OAI PMH harvesters, and this gives us flexibility. And as we know, like we talk about mods, but we picked mods because it's so flexible. And I bet you if you looked at everybody's mods record for an image, you would have a different mods record for everybody because everyone's doing something a little bit different. So we really wanted something that would allow us to have that flexibility. Anything I'm missing here? All right. Able player, so I talked about this a little bit in the presentation that Noah gave yesterday for Born Digital when oral histories came out. We developed the oral history module for Islandora 7, which again, a lot of people have contributed to and has been heavily used in the Islandora 7 ecosystem. So we had a lot of transcribed content we wanted to move over, and we felt a bit of a responsibility because, we had developed the first one to try and put out something that would be useful. So we did some research and we stumbled across the Drupal integration with Able Player, first developed at the University of Washington, which is an incredibly feature-rich HTML5 cross-browser compatible media player. And we are using that module and we've extended it slightly to display this panel underneath. So if you go to the beta link, you can see, much like the module now, you can you get the flashy, as the transcript is playing, it highlights, and you can click on the cues and it will take you to that portion of the video. There's a lot of different features here that we haven't looked at because frankly, so it's WebVTT files in the back end, and the WebVTT file specification supports all kinds of features, and you need a lot of curation of your transcripts in order to get those features, and we don't have transcripts for that right now. But we are hoping that as our transcripts get better, the player will become better and better able to support those features. So you can see here we have an example of a video file in Tamil, and then we have a oral history interview on the side. And so it's designed with accessibility, universal accessibility as the first premise, which is something that we aspire to in the Digital Scholarship Unit. And Kyle's been doing a heavy top to bottom accessibility review of our viewers and our themes. And it really impressed all the accessibility folks at the University of Toronto. They really felt like this was a great viewer for accessibility. So we're hoping that other people will be interested in helping us co-maintain a Drupal integration for this. Web archive viewer. So this, I think, came up as well yesterday. So a lot of us want to have web archives that we store into our collections. All of these viewers as well. I just didn't make the screenshot longer, but if you were to scroll down, it's the same metadata panel and everything underneath. We really like the replay web.page viewer from the Web Recorder project, and they're really nice people over there. And then we also benefited from our cousin project, Archipelago, and the great work done there by Diego. So we were able to reuse some of that. Lara did a lot of this work, and now this is a viewer that will work in Islandora or in Drupal, and it is a Drupal project. We have a Code for Lib article that we wrote a little bit about this, and it's a crosswalk from WARC to the WAC-Z format. It's much, much faster. So we also use Archive It, if you're familiar with Archive It at the University of Toronto. And we were doing a lot of comparisons of how did we feel about the way that you could access and look through archives on the Archive It system versus this system. It's very, very fast. In fact, the only challenge we have now is the size of the files and getting them into Islandora. So we have to ingest the 100 gig, you said? Yeah, we have about 100 gig archive that we have to figure out how to get in. But once it's in, it plays really nicely. It's a great project. And if you haven't talked to any of the folks over at Web Recorder, they're really nice people. The newspaper viewer. So again, based on Born Digital, we kind of pulled some out of some of that work and did a few modifications. And now we have a module called Views Nested Details. So if you ingest your serials, you can see this is like just a collapsible accordion view that gives you the year and then the month and then the date. And we were a little bit worried about what happened when you put 1,000 issues into it, but we put in like 1,000 issues of the Halifax Gazette because we have a large historical Canadian newspaper project that we're working on, and it paged and it's nice. And so we're trying to get this to work with the calendar modules because we think that's another common view, but we think we're going to have to do the same thing that happened with mapping. Like we have to write a small module that's going to make the dates legible so that it will integrate. But our hope is to integrate with all that wonderful Drupal viewer work that allows you to display dates. Because another thing we really want is we really want the facets. When we have our viewers like this, we really want to be able to present our search facets on the side. Moving on, hopefully not eating up our time too quickly. Quick time check. Yeah, I got to go faster. Okay, this is the zip file viewer. So we have zip files. If you have a data repository, you probably have zip files too. So if you have a zip file in your media, then this will print the contents of the zip file to a user so they can download it. So you have the zip file, this is what's in your zip file, download your zip file. So pretty straightforward, but again, something that we didn't find and that we kind of had to extend. Same thing with a view for tabular data. So if we have an Excel file or a CSV file, we wanted the ability to sort of search within that file, look through the file so someone could see what was there before they downloaded it. And this is the CSV file formatter in Drupal that we extended a little bit, and it has these features. And again, there's a link to a place where you can look at that. Mirador is likely to replace OpenSeaDragon Viewer in our sites. We think it's the best for both single and paged content. So we did a little bit of work to remove the current Islandora dependency and make it more of a Drupal module. And then we added the support for the single images. So again, there's a link there to that work. As I mentioned, we have a case where we have to support multilingual sites. We have found Drupal really good at this, and we've done some work so that it seems to work well for us in Islandora. So we can translate the metadata, we can translate the interface, everything that we need to sort of translate. There is a little bit more work to be done with the triple store and indexing multilingual metadata, but we're working on that. We'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the systems details.
Just add one point here.
Come to the microphone to add your point, please.
So yeah, I'll just add one point here. So currently, Workbench doesn't support batch ingest of multilingual content. So there's a small util module that will basically, when you do a post request, it will check, do you have a multilingual, version? If not, it will just create a, empty version. And then if you batch update it, then it will work just fine. So with that util, we are able to batch ingest multilingual metadata as well. So yeah.
I'll edit it. There is a util. Nat wrote a util. It is now available. And thank goodness for Workbench. I wish Mark was here so I could hug him. What a great tool. It's doing everything for us that we need. Breadcrumbs seem like they've come up. So for what it's worth, we just wanted to say what we're doing with breadcrumbs. We forked out the breadcrumbs module, and we are supporting multiple collection membership through the pipe. So we looked at a bunch of other collections where we read, UI guides about what people are doing. And what we decided to do is if you have a part member of relationship with two things, both of those things or three of those things, if you have 15 of those things, I can't help you on so many levels, but you can navigate back either way. And you're always showing the last path back. So we show the home route and we show the next step back. So if you have a giant crazy tree, we're not showing you everything in the tree. We're just showing you the last step back. So that's what we're doing in case it's of interest to other people who are excited about breadcrumbs. And we just finished supporting it so we can handle the multilingual breadcrumbs as well. So if the language context switches, it'll switch you over in your breadcrumbs as well. This is pretty brand new. So inspired by the wonderful work at Carnegie Mellon, we also want to do some in-text highlighting. So this is allowing you to search and then be able to find out exactly in the page where something is. We're not using HOCR, we're using something different, but we want something that is going to support a multiple different formats. And for me, one of the big features here that I'm really excited about is that we can edit it. So this was the problem for me with HOCR, is that if something was wrong with it, it was very difficult to go and fix it without borking the whole thing, and then you couldn't get in-page text highlighting anymore. And it looks like this might work. So we have a demo set up. Kyle set up a demo, I think, last week, and we've passed that to Alex at UPEI, who we understand is also working on this feature. So we're optimistic. This is on our list that we will be able to get this in a generalized way that will suit everybody without too much time. And that is me on viewers. I'm going to pass it to Kyle, our search SAR, who has been doing all of the things with discovery. And he'll tell you a little bit about what we've been doing in solar.
Thanks, Kirsta. This section I'm going to talk about a little bit about our approach on the solar search feature and federate search across sites. So for the search interface, we heavily use advanced search. It's a little bit background story. So advanced search used to be like Islandora advanced search. It's a sub-module inside the Islandora core module. So we look at it and we see that it can work independently. So that's why we fork it out and then we set it as we use it as the independent modules. We add a few functionality on top of it. For example, the key search, there's a simple search block, which is basically is the search form, which is take the keyword search and then redirect to advanced search, and then let the advanced search work its magic. We also add like extended edxmax. Basically, it's extended edxmax query parser with the benefit of fuzzy search functionality, wildcard search, and case-insensitive keyword searching. We also implement our own approach on the date facet. Oh yes, our view actually using the feature which is we enable the Ajax function, Ajax for the advanced search views, which just make the view work a little bit more like smooth and responsive. We also implement our own approach for the date facets, which we try to use the date range widget, but we run into some performance issues, which is caused by using Ajax in the views. So we implement like our own facet, which is you can see a little bit like the widgets like this, simple form. Just click apply, and then it will do the date filtering. Which is there's a link for the module right here, and this is the link for the demo for these features. We also do some our experiment on like the map presentation for the search result as well, which is for any digital object would have coordinate in their metadata, which is instead of like displaying the list in grid, we can switch it to the map, which is like basically it's a solar view. So basically advanced search can work quite well, and then work with the facet. And this is the list of the module we use. So basically we use a geolocation module and its own submodule to support these features.
Isabella, help us. We broke
Sorry,
it.
My bad.
Oh, touch and go, little drama in the middle of the presentation.
So the next feature is timeline for the search result. Similar approach. We're using another module which is available in Drupal.org, which is provide a timeline representation for the search for the solar view, right? So it can be searchable and work with the facet. This is the list of the module and the library which they use. So next is the federal search across the site. So our approach
Can I
is.
interrupt you for 1 second?
Of course.
So sorry. So this is the thing. If you're like us and you had a multi-site and you wanted to search where everyone can search across all the collections, and that's something that's been a challenge, this was our answer for how we're dealing with that. Sorry, go ahead.
So our this is a diagram which describe how we set up our setup with the federal search. So we have like multiple sites which is indexed to one single shared solar core. And then we have another site, which is we call it first federal search site, which is with the we have the interface we developed called Ajax Solar Search in place, which is connect to that solar endpoint, which is the solar core, and then pull the search the content and pull the data from that solar core. So a little bit of background on this module. So we come across the JavaScript library called Ajax Solar, which is available in GitHub. So we basically it do the job, right? So it connect to the single core and then do the search and then pull the data. What we did is we integrate that JavaScript library to Drupal, we make it a Drupal module, and it have the configuration side with the field mapping and everything, and we can customize how the search result display. Like for example, this thumbnail. This is how it look like. So as you can see, there's a search bar, facet available, and you can categorize all the like which content which come from which site, and then same search result with thumbnail and stuff. And the demo is available on this link. This is the link, our repo for the module, and then same thing with the library as well.
Yeah, I'll just add a few points here. So when the user clicks, it actually takes them to the actual site. It's not like in Islandora 7 where you can display it within that site as well. As well as this is not it doesn't have an equivalent advanced search features. We can add them more, but it's more of a keyword search and more basic search functions here.
So we're not going to show the URL, but we just need to be able to index the site name so that we show the site name instead of the HTTPS. Like Lara's working on that right now, I think.
Oh, thank you. So the next section I was going to talk about like our approach on access control. We call it Islandora Group, managing a file system. So our Islandora Group approach is basically we use the Drupal module group to handling the access control, and we use the foundation code which is complete by Danny and One Digital.
Thank you, Danny.
And it's currently part of the Islandora sandbox right now. And we for the storage we didn't use Fedora, so we have to use the Drupal default file system. But Drupal default file system is actually public by default, and public file system is not follow any configuration or access control from the group, right? So we have to turn on the private file system, which is to enable the access control to follow the group config on the file level. And the Islandora Group module actually provide a user interface to manage this access control, which can show in the next slide. This is the link to the modules. So this is like a sort of like an example. Like so in Node and Media, there's a tab called Access Control with Group. So in this tab, there's a section which is like you can add this node to the group, which is this link will link directly to the group permission setting, which is again group will handle access control. This is assistant to the group modules to make things like more like robust and like less manual labor work. Same thing with the account to configure like which account can access this node. The same thing, the group will handle this. For the media, by default we follow whatever like access control follow the group. We add to the group basically from the parent node. But if you want to if let's say the media have a different access control setting, there's an option override here. So it's just if you set the access control in the node level, we can override from the media. So basically that is the if Islandora objects is a collection, there's a similar interface, but there's a section called children node. Basically, it will override all the children node which is belong to that collection.
This is my favorite feature, that it tells me if something is wrong, if I'm about to do something bad. It's very useful. When I saw that, I was very excited.
Yeah, this is we look at all the ticket in Islandora for Islandora issues channel, and then we probably try to tackle that one on the issue as well. Again, the media in media can be set access control separate, independent from the node level, and again it can be override from the node level as well. Okay, so that's my part. Thank you. I will pass to Nat.
Thanks, Kyle. So our approach has been to generally work with Drupal as it is. So we have a set of core modules and then optionally extend with more advanced functionality such as place graph, image server, and Solar. So the key difference are probably the node to media relationship, where we basically work with Drupal's usual way, which is node pointing to the media. The other difference is that we switched out the Java-based queue processing to PHP-based advanced PHP-based queue processing. So Drupal has this nice advanced queue module, which provides a UI to monitor your jobs. That's the main advantage, is that if your jobs all succeeded, anything failed, and you can specify your retries, and you can you can try to reissues them. So and then it's PHP, so you remove the Java complexity a little bit. So that's another major difference. Than that, although there is a framework to do derivatives, the only derivatives that we are doing right now are the thumbnails, which are actually just Drupal, some of the existing contributed Drupal modules. And then we just followed the same template, and then we did the same type of thing for TIFFs, JP2s, and videos. So they're basically Drupal styles, and we just use the Drupal thumbnails. And then we have the fits derivatives. That's important for us for the technical metadata and reporting. And then we index the triples to the triple store, but we are not indexing to Fedora. So that's another thing that we are not currently doing. Yeah, so the basic aim is to simplify the stack so that we can more easily maintain it and extend it. Digital preservation is the collections that we steward. Digital preservation is a key responsibility for us. So there are three things that we focus on with respect to digital preservation. The first thing is ability to back the digital objects. So here, Mark Jordan's Baggett module is very useful, and then we basically extended it with some few plugins that we needed. And the second key thing is ability to generate and monitor checksums. Here again, we are exploring, but we are having some performance issues with the Islandora riprap. And the third thing is basically having all the repository information, ability to report on what the number of collections, how much storage we are using, how much, what the format of their material. So that's where the technical metadata and the reporting functionality comes in, as well as from an repository administrator point of view, ability to just see a particular node and having all the versions shown. It's similar to Islandora 7x. That's mostly driven by embedded views. So that's another thing which is somewhat related to preservation. Yeah, so just a few notes about the content modeling. So as I noted before, the main difference is the node media relationship switch. And then we really try to come up with a way to reuse content types in a sort of a packageable way. And so far, we haven't really come up with a way. So it's mostly reusing fields, and if needed, we create different content types. So far, we sticked with one for most of our current sites, but we can just clone it if we need it. Our content types are plain, like we don't have any plain content types. So it's just plain Drupal content types. They don't have any sort of, right now at least, they don't have any actions that are dependent on that any particular content type, right? And so far, not using context as well. With respect to media, so it's a single entity, entity relation media to the repository item. It's a multi-valued media. And then taking in sets input, when we presented the idea of switching the media, we did add the media use taxonomies. Then we are using the field formatter condition as well as a view mode switcher to set up the displays. So it has been working quite nicely for us. And then if you do need file entities, if you do need metadata at the file level, so for example, fits, we do need to put it at the file level, we are using the file entities. So that, I don't know if, that's what we are doing. Yeah, that's about it.
You talk about display modes?
Yeah, so basically we are using a combination of field formatter condition, view display modes, and the view switcher to set up the displays. So yeah. With respect to, so currently we are starting to roll out production sites. So as we are solidifying the modules, these are some of the things that we'll be focusing on the next weeks and months. So yeah, refining the preservation approach. So we have existing solutions. We need to deploy them and maybe do a little bit more rigorous testing. Refining access control work. So Kyle has done quite a bit of work related to groups. So far, the collections that we launched, they are all public collections. So we avoided the access control issue. But Kyle has developed it. And then we ran into some issues with respect to interacting with IIIF server. And Kyle has sorted them out. OpenSea Dragon and the IIIF Meadow, they were giving us trouble. So Kyle has sorted them out. So we will be rolling maybe more sensitive collections out. The other one, as Kirsta mentioned, is full text across the site, full text searching, and within the given word Meadow search that other institutions have developed, and we've sort of looked at them trying to make it work. So far, Irfan has been happy with us using just the file server of our network attached file storage. We will see how that goes. And so tackling large file ingests has been a challenge. There's a good useful module in Drupal called
That's my fault. I'm sorry. That's bad link text.
File source attach, which just allow you to attach an existing file from a server. But it is a manual thing. So for larger files, you can just point to it, but it's sort of, it does have a limit. Right now it's about 35 gig or something. So yeah, and then there are some indexing work. As I mentioned before, in Islandora, the language tags are properly indexed, but we had some challenges to indexing the language tags properly into the triple store. And same thing with hierarchical information. So one of our collections has needs hierarchical facets. So the broader, narrower indexing, we haven't figured that out. So that's something we are looking at as well. And then there are some more advanced digital scholarship applications with scholarly annotations and being able to give people ability to edit transcripts of manuscripts and so forth. So yeah, these are sort of the long roadmap. Yeah, and you can find so there is an ILDC that will deploy their current stuff, and it includes a demo set of objects and whatnot. And then yeah, it's right now for just a fork. And then there's quite a bit of documentation in GitHub, as well as all of our stuff public. I don't think we have anything private anymore. So yeah, so you can find more information in their GitHub/digital UTSA. Thank you.
Yeah, so we have the classic project in GitHub. Everything is as public as we can make it, which means it's there with all of its foibles, and some stuff is documented and some stuff isn't. But if this is of interest to you, again, like we thank the community so much. We've really benefited from all our conversations, for all the great code that's been written, for all the great ideas that people have come up with. And we're hoping that as much of this as possible will find its way back into the community where it can be useful to all of you. Thank you so much for listening to us talk about it. And if there's time, we'd be happy to take questions.
So far,
this is performance issues for the PHP microservice part of the stack, and what do we anticipate being problems, and if we encountered any problems, and what kind of load testing have we done? Is that right, Alex? Okay.
We deploy like 4 or 5 sites. So each site, I think the max is for triple store deck, I think it's like around 6,000 jobs into the queue. And so far it run it all is the approach is run quite well. But in the future, we are actually deploying more site with a bigger collection with more objects, and then we see from there. Like so far, it's so good. Yeah, that's what my point is.
And so we're doing service files, so not derivative generation on this.
We don't. No generation. The only derivative generation we do is fit technical metadata generation. Yeah.
Just a point on that, because I'll say that was something that I kind of pushed for, because first of all, we're migrating stuff where we already have all the derivatives. And then second of all, Workbench really makes it fairly easy for us to do things. Like it just has to do with our collection development workflow, right? We get a bunch of things, we crunch the things, we make the derivatives, we put it in, and we want to get the technical metadata and checksum as it's going in. But the rest of it, we were like, well, we don't have this use case where we have an army of catalogers who are all dribbling content into the collections. It's like we get a big chunk, we process it, we put it online. We get a big chunk, we process it, put it online. So I think we'll get there, but right now it's just not been a priority use case for us.
I was just asking because it might impact the load for the performance estimator. As it grows, how it goes.
Yeah, I'm curious too.
Can you explain how you might get highlighting without HOCR more?
I can talk a little bit about it, and then I'll let people who actually know more about the details talk about it. The Google Vision API will return a JSON file full of annotations, and the annotations contain the content. And the reason that that's valuable to us is that a lot of our content is multilingual. We have a large menu collection which contains mixed Chinese and English and Spanish content in all sorts of different directions. And so we found that the Vision API really helped us with that, and it's just it's not very expensive, and it was very useful. So we're using that and then transforming it into the format that is required. I'm looking over to make sure I get this right. I'm going to pass it to Nat to explain the rest of this sentence.
So yeah, basically we are trying to implement the IIIF search API. So it generally works. So IIIF search API expects a manifest JSON consisting of all their positional data. And we can take the Vision API output, and there's a small script that will just convert it to the manifest that Vision, the search IIIF search requires. So that's what's involved in getting that to work. Getting a IIIF compliant annotation manifest containing their OCR and positional information. Information is available in the documentation linked in their presentation.
Danny, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Will we have major issues trying to use your work if not on Lite? I don't think so, but sometimes.
So almost all the viewers you can use straight away. So they are just basically Drupal field formatters. So as long as you can add the module and then add, view modes, and you can just set up the same way that other Islandora view displays are set up, you'll be able to use them. So almost all the work, including the advanced search, they work with Drupal and they can work with Islandora. So it's all of them are modular in that sense that they can be the features that you need, that you can incorporate them. You don't necessarily need the our way to incorporate any of these features. Maybe with some of the views that we collected. So that's the main thing that you may not be able to get is just some of their collection views. And so they just basically have some relationships. So you can always, you need the custom views. That's about it.
Look at all the nice things people are saying about us in chat. Thank you, everybody. I'm lucky. I work with the best developers in the world. I love them. Another question? Yes. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to continue this tonight with wine, but I can get you started. So I've been working for 8 years on a project that considers the early modern Mediterranean and archives that are coming. That's the Natalie Rothman project. So that has really complex linked data requirements, as well as the co-display of like a transcript page, as well as the transcript, as well as a relationship that is sort of but not quite translation that has to be expressed between the Turkish and Ottoman Italian version of the page. So that's an example where you have a lot of really strong viewer requirements coming out of that use case. We also have a use case where we're working on Tamil collections that are of significant interest to the community. And so there's a lot of interest in crowdsourcing, and this is actually for the menu collection as well. So being able to crowdsource annotation and transcription of both what we would call like the scholarly or paratextual annotation, as well as just the content on the page to make it searchable. We always have people as well who want visualizations. So the easiest one, the one that everyone wants, is they want mapping and they want timelines. So that was something that we just get from a lot of different people, that they're like, I want to describe and organize this information. Because for them, it's a digital scholarship project. And for us, it's a digital special collection. So exactly. So, and what it is that it's really just a constant brokering of speaking the right language to the right people, which isn't that so much of what Islandora is about, right? You go to Drupal and then you speak the Drupal language in front of Drupalers. You go to the humanists, you speak the humanist language in front of them, developers, systems administrators, so on. It really is. I think one of the strengths of the community is that it's about finding something that will work for everybody. And that's been my approach to the digital scholarship unit, because in the end, the biologist wants tabular data to be stored, and so does the humanist. It's just whether or not that's numbers or text that's in the file, it doesn't really matter. So we're trying to get something that we can put to all of those use cases. And it's already having success in terms of our collections. Like when I came in, we had a handful of collections, a lot of traditional stuff digitized from the archives, a few things that were sort of post-custodial that we had received. And I think that since we've started this, we have a lot more scale to take in collections. So there's a lot, our first launch will be for a memory site at UTSC in late September that will contain serials like newspapers that are all the old staff bulletins and student newspapers from UTSC. And it will contain a number of images. A lot of them were born digital. And then it'll contain a bunch of digitized content as well. And it will also have oral histories in it. So it's kind of, it's not multilingual, but it'll have a lot of the other features there. So I kind of just tagged on that onto the end of not really answering your question, but did that answer your question? I definitely have a lot about that, because we're also we did a lot of work to get our approach into the strat plan for the institution. So there's the institutional strat plan and then the library's response to it. And then a lot of it has been about we try and cultivate sort of departmental ambassadors for our approach. And that's my favorite moment, is listening to Natalie explain to another faculty member how difficult it is to make metadata and how that person should listen to what I'm saying. And that's the thing. It's like, so it's about, there's that evangelism sort of part of it where you have to go out and you have to get people on board with it, because in the end, all of the complex requirements, we try and push them to, you need a data dictionary, you need a metadata. Like we're also doing a post-custodial Chinese material culture archive. We're on the brink of starting that as well. So again, we've got people across multiple international borders. They're all scholars. They all have different objects. Some of them are 3D and some of them are pictures and some of them are high quality and some of them aren't. And there's a policy framework around this. You can imagine that we spend a lot of time talking to the Copyright Office about this approach as well. But I do believe that it is the future of collections is like multiple post-custodial collections. I think it's baked into a lot of ideas about repatriation of data and making things that are infinitely downloadable, that have multiple different types of metadata that can be used in multiple different types of contexts is absolutely, I think, we do a lot of Wikidata stuff and we would like to do more. Like we want to set this up. We already do Wikidata donations for our Tamil. I say this as though I speak Tamil, I don't, but I've been lucky enough to work with people who are information professionals in that community. And so we try and help them provide the technical framework so that they can make those donations to Wikidata, which then of course makes that history and culture and gives them a set of controlled vocabularies that they can use. And then the QID is I like a QID. I have no problem with that at all in terms of a URI. Yes? Hi. They all do, because if you go in, so going back to the search requirements, so much of what they want is, so much of what the faculty are looking for, what the collection requires is specialized search. We have a collection of Ethiopian manuscripts, most heavily used by Ethiopians. It's actually affected the way that we want to develop our theme. And the metadata for it is very complicated because it's like medieval scripture sort of writing in Ge'ez, and it's very, very complicated. It was a faculty member that developed the metadata. So on that site, we need to provide all of those facets. We need to make that search tuned for this particular metadata. But then we also we just wanted that big cross search where it's like, I'm going to UTSC and I want to see what kind of stuff they have. So this is the equivalent of, when we do the Dublin core search in the federated site, because that kind of gave you the same metadata across everything. And then we had in Islandora 7, you could have the site-specific search. So the simple answer is yes. Everybody is indexing and drawing from their own site, and then they are indexing to another core from which we draw for the federated search.
No, actually, actually one core. So each site is actually using advanced search for searching, but they all index to one core, right? So and federated search is live on another side and then connect to that that core, and then just search up on that core and then pull the data from that. Yeah, they have separate index, but they index it to one core. So one core setup. Yes, that's the whole point. Yeah.
But I'm guessing if you do need it to be indexed into different core and then still want the federated search, you can do 2 indexes, and that should work. Yeah.
We're 3 minutes over. Sorry, Donald. So yeah, they're playing the music. Thank you again so much for having us. Happy to talk more about it. We like it a lot.